Well, howdy, all you happy lost souls. Um, this is going to be like kind of a quick little video follow up on some of the comments. I saw a couple real cool comments on a possible artifact, Native American hammer type stone that was also a meteorite. And I have something very similar that may also be a meteorite, but I am not positive on it yet. I did show you the test on the last video about how you can determine them, and sometimes they're a little bit more difficult to determine. Now, I want to show you some other stuff, though, that's really fascinating within my collection of artifacts. Yeah, that's all sapphire back there. I have a lot of video on corundum and sapphire, which is another material I find a lot of the tools made out of in southeast Pennsylvania area. Now, I'm a big person on pattern when I do find things intact, and most of these finds are from the penny pack, and one set of them is from the Wissahickon, which a lot of the artifacts and tool makers were in both regions. They're so close, and most of the connector streams connect the two streams together. Most of the artifacts are very, very similar in design and material. There's also a lot of corundum in both streams in certain areas. You like a big piece of blue sapphire like that right there. But anyway, let's get back to some unique, bizarre patterns and things. And what I'm going to talk about is groupings, or two or three artifacts that were obviously made by the same hand in the same material, left in one spot for some reason. And they're usually left in pairs, and they're usually very beautiful artifacts. Some you can't imagine them ever being used. They're kind of just left for almost a ritual purpose. Most of these are found in time periods after rainstorms, when banks wash out, and a lot of these are most likely out of caches that are under big root systems of old trees. And if you're in the southeast where I am, along a lot of the old crossing points and creeks, you'll see these giant white trees. They're sycamore trees. I call them ghost trees. These are ancient. They grow in a lot of old cleared quarrying construction sites for Native Americans. They're good places to look for old things. They planted them and viewed them in the dark forest to find their way a lot of times, and the wood was very good for canoes. There's also some other medicinal properties with the sycamore. It's not a video about that, it's just a video about where you can find some of these things sometimes. But what's very unique about this pattern of leaving artifacts that are made by the same hand, that are special at these sites, these crossing sites in the stream, is they match a pattern of ancient Stone Age ritual that was seen in the ancient archaeology of the UK and England, the Doggerland area. The predecessors of the people who went on in the Neolithic period built Stonehenge. So we're talking about even older, though, this ritual of leaving these things at crossing points, and it went and carried on, and it even carried on through the Bronze Age and Iron Age up until medieval Europe when Christianity took over. Warriors would leave bent swords at wells where water came up, and a lot of these areas are where natural springs are. And could there be a ritual connection to the springs and areas where the natural water is coming from, and these things that are left behind? And I'll show you a few of the pairs. These three were found together, roughly the same material. Now this one might be a meteorite, this bizarre hammerhead, and I'll show you a couple things about that in a second. And this odd shaped knife or pressure flaking tool, it's probably composite. It's got a not a shaft, but it is cored out there, so it's fluted a bit. And same thing with this corner grinding knife or grinding stone, or probably a blade when it was sharpened at one point. It's got almost 3 fingers, it looks like, that are in it. But they're kind of rusted out, so probably attachment for something for cutting. And this stuff very abrasive. It can cut into other stone. It's this like very rich quartzite. And then this is some sort of extremely magnetic material that may be meteoritic. It's got a lot of these little characteristics, these little modules. And we'll get back to that in a second. I'm going to show you a couple of the other pairs. Found this celt made out of this crazy serpentine. This green and yellow. It's most likely sapphire running through it. Emerald and sapphire because of all the corundum in the area. And you get this gouge or sanding tool that matches it, both found together after a rainstorm. The same day these two were found. This beautiful serpentine celt. This high grade serpentine soapstone. This is beautiful celt. And then this crazy serpentined hammerstone with this bullseye serpentine through it. And you get it wet a little bit. I don't want to lick a rock, but this thing really like comes to life a bit more. You can really see the pattern in there. So again, a grinding implement. You still see like a rope attachment on the top there against this really rough, grinding, probably for grinding down grain or something similar to that type action. And then this crazy set of 4 that I found left, made out of that crazy Wissahickon schist that you can cut both ways, this crazy hammer. And you can just feel the power in this thing. It's literally a non-composite, but it has a shaft, so it's like an entire composite tool, but made out of one piece of stone. Then you have this beautiful celt head. Okay. Another smaller celt head here. And this gouging or sharpening type tool here, found together in the Wissahickon after a rainstorm by the roots of a giant tree, but it was washed out onto the bank. And stuff's not there for long, covered back up, and when a cache like that washes out and you're lucky enough to find it, and it's in no man's land, then it's nice. But these patterns that you find, these are left with intent when they wash out together as a grouping. And you can see this pattern performed as a spiritual offering, territorial offering. We don't know their gods. We don't know their language. We don't even really know who they were. Stuff's very hard to date. Is when you find things in gravel beds, alluvial beds, stuff's very, very hard to date. But I want to show you a little bit about this specific one, especially because a few members of the channel or people who have seen the videos, and thank you by the way, please subscribe. Happy Lost Souls is growing. Once the channel hits 500, the website will go off, and it'll be a very, very fun day because it's a goal. But anyways, let's look at this one here, this Hammerhead. And this is very, very unique because my metal detector actually sets off on this, and it comes back paramagnetic a lot of times. So depending on radio signals, how magnetic, or if it is the opposing magnetic. Now there's an earth magnet, and this is extremely, extremely magnetic. It's not going anywhere. It's more magnetic in this crease where it's cut, which is another thing. If they knew that they could increase the magnetivity by cutting it this way, very crazy. I have another video about how this could be used as some kind of compass. But I thought this is magnetite for a while, but I got a hardness reader recently to test a lot of my sapphires, and this thing's a lot harder than magnetite would be. And although on the tile test, I originally thought it was failing the tile test and leaving marks, I retested it, and I'm really not getting anything. I think the marks I was seeing was it just scratching through the tile, and that just left a mark right there. Let's see. So on that sharp edge, I'm getting a mark. So it's very, very hard to tell. It could just very well be magnetite, but see, it's taken a lot of the tile off with it. Usually when you have a piece of magnetite, you know right away, like here's a piece of hematite. Like do you see the mark it leaves? Like it's very noticeable. So this thing is very baffling to me. It's got these shiny little black little looking diamond things all over it. It could just be very pebbled down magnetite. Magnetite like this is found usually up in the New York area, but Native Americans had a lot of contact and trade with one another, and they moved around a lot. And you know, it's very possible that stone was being traded, and you can find this stuff in this area sometimes as well. But this was left with intention. And it's not just you see how magnetic it is? It's not just a little magnetic, it's extremely magnetic. So, yeah, we just got to figure out what it is. It's very hard, it's very heavy for its size as well. So, I just don't know. The most rudimentary test, it passes one with flying colors, and another one, it kind of leaves a mark, kind of doesn't. But it's hard to tell whether it's just it displacing tile and burning that when it's moving past because it's so hard, because it leaves tile residue on the rock. I don't know, guys. Either way, it's very cool. You don't find magnetic artifacts very often. The fact that where it was actually cut and shafted down into whatever instrument of wood that it would have been shafted down into, the magnetivity increases along that point. So, you know, who knows? Maybe it was used for navigation of some sort. It's like a primitive compass, but it's one of the most magnetic artifacts I've ever found, and I'm still on the fence about the material. But it very well could be some either meteoritic or some sort of rock that was influenced by a meteor. Or it could just be a strange piece of magnetite. What its actual use for, besides a hammer, it was left with these other ritual tools in that one niche. It's kind of very neat. But these little patterns, guys, it's kind of like what I like to focus on a lot of times. But anyways, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. You can comment. I don't read them a ton of times. If you want to reach out on Instagram, it's Happy Lost Souls 27. You can DM me on there. If you have any more serious things that are similar or things you want to chat about rock-wise. Also a lot of original music if you're new to the channel. Just a lot of original tunes and cool things that we find rock hounding and exploring both the archaeology, anthropology, and geology of Southeast Pennsylvania. Anyways, take care of y'all. Peace, love, empathy. Please subscribe. Peace.